This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Now, with a look at local, regional, and international NASCAR racing, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle RIckey.
The NASCAR K&N Pro Series West did both left and right-hand turns this past weekend at Sonoma, and one of the biggest super late model races on the West Coast is on the horizon this up-and-coming weekend out at Evergreen Speedway. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined once again by Kyle RIckey here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. It's Wednesday, June 26, 2019, and Kyle, the talk of the weekend had to be that K&N West race out at Sonoma where when the checkered flag flew, it was Ryan Preece, but after a little bit of controversy, it was Noah Gragson who was deemed the win.
Yeah, they ran the Procore 200 out at Sonoma Raceway. They were the lead up to the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series race on Sunday. And honestly, Hannah, I got tap dance around this a little bit because I'm sick of talking about penalties, whether it be on the National Series or the local series. It seems like that's all we talk about is disqualifications and penalties. And again, it bit Ryan Preece here. He led a race high 33 laps of the 57 run. He apparently jumped the late race restart, the final restart of the event, and was black flagged and moved to 20th. I think, we're in a tough position now because we love this sport, but this is 2 weeks in a row after coming off of all the controversy in the truck race at Iowa that, both you and I were a part of. It seems like the cars are perfect, the drivers are perfect, the racetracks are perfect, the pit crews need to be perfect, and a lot of these penalties we're seeing, in my opinion, are starting to take a lot of the character out of this sport. And I think Ryan hit on that in his post-race interview with Claire B, saying, hey, I'm just trying to do something a little bit different on some of these restarts to catch Daniel Hemrick, who I believe was starting alongside of him, off guard. He's appears to have went in the zone and when the green flag flew, but there was still a penalty. So, it's a tough line. It's a very thin line that that NASCAR, is working with right now. But, I'm just, and I know you are too. We're just sick of talking about penalties every week.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, it was definitely, you could see on social media the confusion that was there. There was multiple attempts at a green-white checkered, lots of cautions at the end of that race. At one point, timing and scoring and everything that was going on the Fans' Choice broadcast. We watched this race, obviously, together this past weekend while we were at Gateway, and the checkered flag had flown, and they had the car stopped, red flagged, hanging out there, and we were confused as to was the race over, what were they deciding, and then they lined them up again and sent them off, and that's when that penalty was, assessed, and you're the leader, so it's really confusing for me as how a leader could realistically jump a restart like that, but agreed. You get a little bit exhausted talking about penalties.
And they've showed the replay and even the live call. I believe Justin Haley was in the booth and said, man, that's a great restart. And I think we all thought it was a great restart. The green flag was out. He was within the what we refer to as the Geico restart zone at all of these National Series tracks, which is painted on the wall. And it appeared that his car was within that zone. But then I found out on the plane coming back from St. Louis by a NASCAR official that he wasn't sure, but he thought the touring rules were different from the national rules when it comes to restarts. So
confusion would be the word.
It's just, and it's too much. The more rules you have, the harder it is to understand, and we're about there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of an unfortunate deal, too, to have that play out at the end, which, overshone the fact that there was 32 cars in the field for the K&N West race out there, handful of Cup drivers, including, Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, obviously, as well. Noah Gragson made a return, ended up capturing the victory. And so you look at that top five there. Your top five was after Preece got, disqualified and was placed 20th. It was Gragson with the win. Hemrick was second. Austin Dillon was third. Cole Custer was fourth. And David Mayhew broke out of retirement for the weekend, came out and ran and finished fifth. But Haley Deegan was actually the highest finishing regular season competitor in eighth. So that's going to shake up the points coming out of this. But unfortunate that all of this was kind of overshown with the controversy on the last couple laps.
Yeah, it was a great field. As you mentioned, 33 cars, a deep field, guys that came out of retirement, like you mentioned, with David Mayhew, Will Rogers making a return to the series, all the Cup guys and the Xfinity Series presence. Haley Deegan having a good run, now 1 point behind Derek Kraus, who finished outside of the top 10, going to their next event this weekend in Washington. So a lot to talk about in the K&N West Series, but unfortunately, everything revolved around that penalty and that video that was shown on social media with Ryan Preece post-race talking to some of the media. I think it was up to like 15,000 or 20,000 views, as of a couple of days ago. So you're right. It's a bummer that all of this good stuff was overshadowed by what happened to Preece on that last restart.
But an interesting last couple weeks in short track racing, like you said.
Indeed.
But that being said, there's a lot more on tap this up-and-coming weekend, including, we talked about a little bit earlier, the Summer Showdown out at Evergreen Speedway in Monroe, Washington. 5/8 mile track. This is one of the staple races out on the West Coast that could be compared to some of the bigger super late model races out here. You've got the Winter Showdown, you've got the Montana 200, and then the Summer Showdown being those staple races. Interesting entry list, going to reel in a lot of different talent from all across the country for sure.
41 cars entered the race a year ago, and they're expecting just as many this year, including, I think, is Bubba Pollard going out there? I wasn't sure if I saw him on the list, but I think he's a prior or former winner. Preston Peltier has won that race 2 times. So this will be the 8th edition of the event. It's 200 laps at the 5/8 mile Evergreen Speedway in Monroe, Washington, and brings out some of the best super late model competitors, not only from the West Coast, but also from the East Coast. And we're going to talk to one of those drivers looking for his first win in this prestigious event. And it's hard to believe he hasn't got it yet because he's won everything else at Evergreen Speedway here in a little bit, in Tyler Tanner.
Yeah, no doubt. Tyler Tanner's had a good season thus far as well. On the local circuit side of things, he's got a couple of wins, leading the track championship at the moment. So I think he's got a good shot. You've also got previous winners being the brothers, Owen and Taylor Riddle. They're hard to beat anywhere they go, let alone going to a racetrack like Evergreen Speedway. Let's hope Mother Nature plays out on their side. I know we have rain. Rain is just the name of the game out in Washington. They never seem to catch a break. I went, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. We had to run the event on a Sunday morning because of rain. Was it last year?
Yep.
And last year, yeah. So unfortunately, but I've looked at the radar. Everything looks good. So hopefully there's some good weather for the Summer Showdown this weekend. But we'll have Tyler Tanner on a little bit later to talk about that. But also, Rev Racing. We've had a lot of their drivers on throughout their K&N circuit. We've had Ruben Garcia Jr. and Chase Cabry with wins this season so far in the K&N East. We've had Nick Sanchez on here as well. One of their late model drivers, Brooke Storr. Gracie Trotter, looking forward to having her on the show here after the break as well. I think Rev Racing has really hit on something this year. They've seen a lot of success, and it's always awesome to have their drivers on here.
A lot of success, obviously, coming off a win just a couple of weeks ago in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East at Memphis Motorsports Park, picking up their first win of the year with Chase Cabry. You mentioned the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series teams have been doing well. Gracie Trotter, one of those drivers that's getting herself adapted. I believe it's her second year driving a full-bodied stock car. She's making or has made a name for herself and continues to make a name for herself on the Tuesday night Summer Shootout Series at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, multi-time winner and champion in that series, and is continuing to run that series this summer as well. So it'll be interesting to see Gracie's take and what her schedule looks like this summer as she continues to develop in short track racing as a driver with Rev Racing.
Sounds like a busy one at that. So when we return, we'll have Gracie Trotter on the phone line here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
If your vehicle isn't stopping like it used to, visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a set of Brake Best Select brake pads and 2 Brake Best Select rotors. And you'll receive a $25 O'Reilly gift card by mail. Enjoy quiet, safe, worry-free braking. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle RIckey.
Rev Racing, a team part of NASCAR's Drive for Diversity efforts, fields drivers in both the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East as well as the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series, and they've had a pretty successful 2019 season. Thus far, we've gotten lucky and had quite a few of their drivers on here, but we have yet to have Gracie Trotter on, and she joins us on the guest line as one of their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series drivers. Gracie, welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you.
This is your first year with Rev Racing. You're part of their late model stock division. Overall, what's been your takeaway being part of Rev Racing's team thus far, and how would you assess your 2019 season thus far?
It's been a great year working with them so far. It's been great, working with a new team, getting used to working with a new crew chief with the late models, and also I've never raced the late model stock before I came with them because I've been racing super late models, so it's been a big transition over. We finished 6th at Myrtle Beach last time we went there, so that's been our best finish so far this year. We're going back there this weekend, so hopefully we can top that one.
And a top 10 a couple of weeks back at the Langley Speedway in, I believe, your last late model event. I like to talk to the Rev Racing drivers about the application process. What was it like for you, and what did you maybe feel like you did best at as far as the physical fitness test or the media test or some of the on-track testing that you go through as part of getting selected to be a part of the Rev Racing team?
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. The first day, we did a lot of media stuff, interviews. We did a fitness test, and we also went out to dinner with a lot of the NASCAR people. And then the next day, we went to New Smyrna Speedway and got tested with our on-track skills. And I felt like I did pretty good with that part. I knew all the cars were the same, and we had to drive them to the best we could. So I think I did a good job on, staying consistent with my times there at that track. But it was a pretty cool deal.
And you'd mentioned that this year you're part of the late model stock team, running the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. Your stock car experience is limited, but it comes in the form of a super late model. So your first year behind the wheel of a late model stock. What was that transition like? Because most of the time people go up the ladder as far as horsepower, and this is a step back for you.
Right, yeah. I think it was a little bit harder because I wasn't used to the heavier car, and also they don't handle as good, they don't turn as good, so I really have to manhandle the late model stock compared to the super, but also the super has a ton of horsepower, so I also have to manhandle that too. But I spent a lot of time on iRacing just trying to get used to that, and I'm finally starting to get it down.
Let's go even further back. We talked about your super career and now your late model career. We'll talk about your summer shootout, legend car career here in a few moments. But what got you hooked on racing and becoming a race car driver?
Yeah, I grew up in racing. My dad raced, and also his dad raced. And back in the early 2000s, my dad actually owned a race team. He owned a late model stock and 2 USAC asphalt midgets. So I grew up going to the racetrack with him, and I kind of just fell in love with it. And I kept begging him when I was little. So finally, when I was about 8 years old, he took me out and we rented some go-karts to test out at Carolina Motorsports Park. And a couple months later, he bought me a go-kart. We went go-kart racing.
It all has to start somewhere, and it's always the go-karts and the young kids that get them, and then our parents are in trouble because all we want to do is go faster in bigger cars. So bless our parents, right?
Yeah, right.
But you got a busy summer schedule on top of your NASCAR Whelen All-American Series schedule with Rev Racing. You're also back behind the wheel at the summer shootout. With being such a busy schedule, what made you decide to come back once again and race the summer shootout out at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Legend?
The legend cars are a lot of fun. Last year, I actually led the points the whole season, and then the last night I actually came up 2 points short and finished second. So this year we wanted to come back and get redemption and see if we can get the championship this year.
That series now 3 weeks into their summer. How's the week or the summer shootout going for you? At last check, I believe a 9th place effort in the last week. How'd the opening week's been for you guys?
Yeah, we finished second the first night, 9th the second night, and then 4th last week. So I think we're sitting 5th in points right now. we're making some new changes to the car, seeing if it can make it better. So Joe Ryan Osborne's been working really hard on that. So we'll see what we got for tonight at practice, and hopefully we can get us a win tomorrow.
Always great entertainment. During the summer, it's weeknight racing out at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can take the kids. There's a lot of stuff going on between the Legends and the Bandoleros, so it's awesome that the Summer Shootout, puts this stuff on for some entertainment, some weekly racing throughout the Charlotte area. But something that has always stuck out to me, and I've talked to some of the other drivers as well that have come on the show about this, is the dynamic that's over at Rev Racing between a lot of the drivers. When you and your teammates on the late model stock side of things are not racing, you're usually found at the K&N East races, hanging out, helping, learning, but then you guys also hang out away from the racetrack as well. What's the dynamic like between you and the other drivers?
Yeah, it's been a fun time. I've never really had a lot of teammates like that before, so we talk, we learn from each other, and it's a great time going to the K&N races. So that's hopefully something that I want to do next year, the year after. So getting to go to those tracks and experience that, and learning how they race those cars and stuff, I think it's a pretty cool deal to do that.
NASCAR K&N Pro Series East back in action at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks' time. Daniel Hemrick, obviously a Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series rookie, took a very similar path that you're taking now, starting at the legend car level at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. In fact, he ran there just until, I believe, 2 years ago. Ran late models and super late models throughout the Southeast. How well do you know Daniel, if at all, and have you been able to pick his brain at all?
Actually, no, I've never met him before.
He's a good guy. Obviously competing at the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup level. Is that a path that you're hoping to take, Gracie, in your career as you continue to grow in this sport?
Yeah, that's definitely my goal. I want to eventually reach the Cup Series in NASCAR and win in that series.
It was actually pretty cool to see. I believe it was Bubba Wallace, 2 weeks ago, came back out to his racing roots as well and ran out at the Summer Showdown. Not Summer Showdown. Summer Shootout. Too many summer things going on. Out at Charlotte Motor Speedway, get back behind the wheel of a legend. So that was cool. Now, Gracie, you've got a busy summer, obviously, with the shootout going on during the weekdays in the Legend. What is the rest of your late model stock schedule look like, as well as I know you're behind the wheel of a Super a couple times?
Yeah, we're racing the Super Late Model next weekend at Caraway, and then we go to Kenley a couple weeks later. And we're also, we just rebuilt my dad's late model stock that he used to race 20 years ago. So we're probably going to do some extra races in that, just to help us with the late model stock over at Rev Racing. So, and then we have about 5 more races in the late model with Rev.
A busy summer indeed. Well, Gracie, thanks so much for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and best of luck the rest of the 2019 season.
Thank you guys for having me.
That was Gracie Trotter, driver for Rev Racing in the NASCAR Wheelin' All-American Series. But when we return, we'll talk to another driver in the NASCAR Wheelin' All-American Series, but on the West Coast, as Tyler Tanner joins us to preview the rest of his season out at his local home track and the Summer Showdown this up-and-coming weekend here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Wheelin designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Wheelin product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Wheelin is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Save on your next oil change at O'Reilly Auto Parts when you purchase 5 quarts of Valvoline conventional motor oil and a MicroGuard filter for $24.99. Plus, get a $5 O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card after mail-in rebate. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Matt DiBenedetto, driver of the number 95 Procore Toyota Camry. On race day, you can save a ton of fuel by drafting in the pack, but you'll never win if you don't stay up on the wheel. It's Just like in the construction business, you can either keep up with the competition or leave them in the dust with the Procore Construction Management Platform. Whether you're a GC, specialty contractor, or owner, Procore's software is built to help your team stay on budget, on schedule, and in control. To learn more, visit Procore.com.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle RIckey.
One of the West Coast staple super late model races is this up-and-coming weekend at the Evergreen Speedway, the Summer Showdown. One of the best super late model races personally on the West Coast to attend, and we're joined on the guest line now by a driver who's looking to hopefully find his way into victory lane this up-and-coming weekend, Tyler Tanner. Tyler, thanks for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Now, this up-and-coming weekend, you're obviously a regular at the Evergreen Speedway, currently in contention for the championship, leading the points out there in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series division. How important or how awesome would it be to add your name to the list of winners for such a prestigious race out there?
It'd be really awesome. I mean, the Summer Showdown is kind of, you mentioned the championship and everything at Evergreen Speedway, but the Summer Showdown in itself is a lot more of a discrete race. It's I guess you might consider it as one of the crown jewel late model races in the country. It's a lot of guys from around the country. Some of the best super late model racers will attend. So being able to perform good at a race like that is kind of what we all strive for. So it'd be really cool if we could run good and maybe even win the race.
Only one way to go after last year's race. I believe an early race incident or mechanical issue put you out, finishing 41st, a huge field for this event. What happened last year, and how big of a disappointment is it for something like that to happen in the biggest race of the year at your home racetrack?
Yeah, it's definitely a big disappointment. Like you said, we finished, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it or not, but I guess the acronym's DAL. Couldn't finish any worse. Last year, motor blew up. I think it was around lap 20, 25. We were leading the race and had a strong car all weekend, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Didn't win the race, didn't finish the race. So hopefully, hopefully we can kind of turn the results around, run strong like we have in the past, but everything kind of fall into place this year. It's always been kind of a tough race. Well, not just the race, but even any event on the 5/8 for us in particular. It's been difficult over the years. We always are strong there. We've always ran good, but it just doesn't ever seem to fall into place. Over, I don't even know how many years I've been racing there now, 6, 8, 10 years, however long it's been. I've only won one race on the 5/8. And just for another example, the first race this year, our motor blew up in practice before qualifying. So it's always been a struggle when we go there as far as everything falling in line. So hopefully this is a year it all turns around for us.
And I will credit you there because I have ran the 5/8 mile at Evergreen, and it is hands down one of the hardest tracks ever for me to run, to get a grasp on. It's just really tricky. It's got a unique paper clip, but you still run extremely high speed. So always puts on some interesting racing. But your regular season is actually run on the inner circle of the racetrack, which is a 3/8, I believe, right?
Yeah, correct. They actually run us on both racetracks for the point series. It's just majority on the 3/8. We only run 3 events the entire year of our 12 races on the 5/8. So I've always enjoyed it. Like you said, it's really unique. It's a different racetrack. I think part of what makes it what it is because it was originally paved in 1950-something, mid-50s. It was originally paved, and it's never been repaved. Yeah, they've done some patchwork and stuff on the straightaways here and there, but original asphalt, original corners. You can steer the car with your feet as much as you can the steering wheel. So it makes for fun racing. A lot of lanes you can run there, and definitely unique. But out of all the racetracks in the country that I've been to, it's definitely one of my top 3.
200 laps on Saturday night. How much of the race, and you talked about it a moment ago, the old pavement, I didn't realize it was that old. It might be the oldest pavement in the country that we conduct racing on, going back to the 50s. How much of that 200 laps is tire conservation and tire management?
I think depends on the event. The Summer Showdown, knowing that you're going to stop at halfway and get 4 tires, fuel, and whatever adjustments you can make within 7 minutes, or however long the break is. I don't think it's going to be as much conservation as like you might see the events where we'll run the same tires the whole race, or we'll do a halfway break but only take rights, and you'll run the same left side. So the Summer Showdown, I think you'll see a lot faster pace than most races, especially in the first half, because a lot of guys will probably run fairly hard just to get a feel for the tire fall off and the balance of their race car. That way you know what you're going to have for the second segment, because you get a 7-minute break to make some changes. So you kind of have to run hard the first segment. Still, you have to make it through. Obviously, you can't wreck the car or anything like that or get caught up in an incident. So you have to be smart, but at the same time, run the thing hard and know what you need at that halfway break to make those adjustments for the final segment.
Lots of strategy involved. I know I've watched over the last couple years of the conversation of if a crate model or a crate motor is an advantage with the tire wear and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it all plays out to, like you said, strategy and just being able to stay out of the chaos, because there tends to be some chaos here and there. But away from the racetrack for a second here, you recently bought property out here in North Carolina. Are you planning on moving out here? And if so, is your racing going to move out here as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a two-sided deal. So I bought property. It's just bare land, and I plan to put up a race shop with, a small living quarter in it for short term. But I don't know. I do plan to move out there. I actually just bought my plane ticket Friday last week, so I'll be moving July 31st. That'll leave only 3 races for the remainder of the year at Evergreen that I'll have to fly back and forth for. But as far as my racing, I don't know how soon I'll move it out there. It may be a year to build the building. Who knows? It's just going to be one of those things I'm going to have to figure it out as I go. But either way, I'm really excited about it. I've always enjoyed North Carolina. I've raced out there a lot, even going back to when I was a kid racing quarter midget. So it's one side of it's really exciting. The other side is kind of scary because I've raced my entire life since I was 4 or 5 years old. I've raced every year, but doing all this, I'm probably gonna have to take a step back at least for a year, my own personal racing to get everything built, to get it all lined up. So that's the scary side of it, but I think the benefits will outweigh that in the long term.
Absolutely. Got to look at the big picture, no doubt, and best of luck with that move. Now, Hannah and I, we're just back from the NASCAR Gator Outdoors Truck Series race at Worldwide Technology Raceway in Gateway, formerly known as Gateway Motorsports Park. Mike Mittler on the minds of about everybody this weekend. The trophy that was presented to the race winner named after Mike. You drove for him in the Truck Series from 2011 to 2015 in select races. What was your relationship like with Mike, and how did you two come together for you to have those opportunities?
Yeah, I did drive for Mike off and on about 2012 to 15 or 16, somewhere in there. And, like many other people that he went out of his way to help, I was one of them. A lot of what we see, you guys are pretty familiar with it, but a lot of what we see in the industry now is you have to buy a ride if you want to move up to the next level, or at least that's the most common theme. But Mike Mittler was a very passionate person about racing. He owned a business, and racing was kind of his hobby. Just up the street from his business, he had a little race shop, and it was packed full of tools, trucks, all kinds of stuff. And smaller team as compared to like KBM or ThorSport or a lot of those guys that you see regularly. But Mike was one of the only teams that raced every year since the inaugural year in the Truck Series. And it was just his passion. He helped a lot of drivers like myself, and the relationship between him and I was kind of unique. My parents owned a business called Tanner Racing Products, and in 2003 or 4, I don't remember exactly, but my dad's father was diagnosed with cancer, and they just, couldn't really keep up with the business and everything. They had a relationship with Mike, and Mike ended up buying the business from them. So then the business moved to St. Louis, and that's kind of where the relationship was formed. And at the time I was a kid racing quarter midgets, Mike would help me out here and there. We traveled all over the country, and he kind of made, even back then, he was helping us make that possible. And then when the time came when I was old enough, he put me in one of his trucks. So it was really special, all the help he gave me over the years, and to see what they did for him at Gateway, and even the race leading up to that since his passing was, it was really cool to watch. So thank you to everyone, Chris Blair especially, for everything they did at Gateway in recognition of Mike.
Yeah, it was awesome to see at Gateway, like you mentioned. On lap 63, all the teams actually got up on the wall. Crew guys, fans, everyone standing in memory for all the awesome stuff that he's done for racing. But Tyler, we know you just got off of work, so we'll let you go in case you have more work or prep to do for this up-and-coming weekend at Evergreen. Best of luck this weekend at the Summer Showdown and the rest of the 2019 season.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it, and thanks again for having me on.
That was Tyler Tanner on the guest line, a competitor at Evergreen Speedway, currently leading the points in their super late model division, and also a competitor in this up-and-coming weekend's Summer Showdown. But when we return, we'll talk about who found their way into victory lane this past weekend and what races you should look forward to this weekend as well.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away one set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
It is Procore Week here at the Motor Racing Network as we get you guys ready to go racing this up-and-coming weekend at Chicagoland Speedway with NASCAR's National Series. And whether you're a GC, a specialty contractor, or an owner, Procore's construction management software is built to help your team stay on budget, on schedule, and in control. So no matter what you're building, Procore can help you finish ahead of the competition. And that being said, there was also some racing this past weekend where some drivers found their way into victory lane on NASCAR's local side.
Absolutely, from coast to coast. Finally, Mother Nature starting to cooperate, including right here at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Todd Owen picking up his second consecutive SK Modified win. Tom Fern winning for the second straight week in the late models. They have a big night this Friday with the SK 5K for the SK Modifieds. Sticking with the modified theme, Bowman Gray Stadium. Brandon Ward passed Burt Myers on a late race restart within the final 10 laps to win the 100-lap modified event. Kingsport Speedway, the late models were off. Trey Lane, though, won the modified street feature. They are back in action this Friday night. Sunset Speedway up in Canada set a new record this year. I think they raced 2 weeks in a row. Connor James picked up the win in the Lucas Oil Sportsman feature event. All their NASCAR Whelen All-American Series divisions are back in action this Sunday. And a little closer to your home, Hannah, at the Hickory Motor Speedway in North Carolina, Gage Painter and Thomas Bean split the twin 40-lap late model features. They are back in action this Saturday night with a 100-lap late model event, part of the Big Ten Series there at Hickory.
I heard weather was questionable around our area, so I'm glad to know that we got some local racing in as well. Yeah. Southern National, Bradley McCaskill got the win in the late model. First twin, Brian Obie collected the second one. Tucson Speedway out on the West Coast, Brandon Farrington collected the first one, and his teammate Cole Raz won the second late model race out there. But speaking of West Coast racing, the K&N West is also back in action this upcoming weekend. We talked about it a little bit beforehand. They are back at Douglas County Raceway out in Oregon. So, yeah, they get to get up to the northeast a little bit as well.
2 weeks in a row for the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West. A lot of big short track races this weekend. Mentioned the SK 5K here, the Summer Showdown at Evergreen. South Boston Speedway, they also have the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson 200 for their late models. So literally coast to coast And even north of the border, the NASCAR Pinty Series in action this weekend with at the Autodrome Chaudier. So a lot of short track racing this weekend. Most of it can be seen on fanschoice.tv.
I was going to say, I know what I'll be doing. I'll be at Chicagoland Speedway this weekend with MRN. But in between all that, I'll definitely be on Fans Choice and watching it. So looking forward to doing this again with you next week, Kyle, here on the Motor Racing Network. For NASCAR Coast to Coast, producers Brian Yeswich and Craig Moore, we will see you guys next week.
NASCAR Coast to Coast has been brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast can be found on MRN.com, Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.